Coming to module 5. In module 5, you'll be totally learning three different chapters. You'll be learning three different chapters. This is the first chapter in that is real-time operating system based embedded system design. In this, you'll be learning the basics of the operating system and types of operating system, what are task, process and threads, and you'll be learning task communication and also task synchronization, and how you can go for choosing the real-time operating system with respect to the embedded system that you have designed. Coming to operating system basics. See, operating system, it is a bridge between the user application and the system resources, and it has got a set of system functionalities and services. And this OS, it will go for managing the system resources, and it will make the system resources available to the user applications depending upon the need. The normal computing system, it's a collection of different IO subsystems and working and storage memory. Primary function of operating system is it will go for making the system convenient for using. Apart from that, it will go for organizing and also managing the system resources very efficiently and correctly. As a user, I can make use of the system efficiently by the use of operating system. Through the operating system only, any user can go for making use of the system properly. See, in this figure, you can see the operating system architecture. Mainly, it has got mainly three layers. That is user applications. Then you have a services given by the kernel. Then the hardware. See, in the kernel services, we have all the services that are given by the OS. That is like memory management, process management, time management, file system management, and IO subsystem management. We have this application programming interface between the user applications and the kernel services. And with respect to the hardware, we have a device driver interface. Whatever hardware we have, there the interface that is provided here is the driver interface. Coming to the kernel. See, kernel is the core of the operating system, and this kernel is responsible for managing the system resources as well as the communication between the hardware and other system services. Kernel, it is acting like a abstraction layer between the system resources and the user applications. Kernel will go for having a set of libraries and services. Usually the kernel will contain the process management, primary memory management, then the file system management, then IO system device management, secondary storage management, protection system, and interrupt handler. We'll go for dealing with one by one. Coming to the process management. See, process management means managing the processes as well as tasks. Process management, it includes setting up the memory space for the process. So, how much memory is needed for the particular process? It has to be set by the process management. Then, it has to go for loading the process code into the memory area. It should go for loading the code, program code into the memory area. Then, after loading, it should go for allocating the system resources. Then, it will do the scheduling as well as it will go for managing the actual execution of the program. Then, it will set up and manage the process control block. You learn about the process control block later on. Then next job is inter-process communication as well as synchronization. If the program that has been running, it has to communicate with other program, then that communication will be managed through the process management only, and even the synchronization will be done. Fine. Then the process termination, that is at what time it has to be terminated, deletion, everything, all regarding the process will be managed by the process management. Next one is the primary memory management. See, what is primary memory? Primary memory is nothing but the RAM, the volatile memory or the RAM. Here in this RAM, the programs are loaded as well as the variables are loaded. Programs as well as the variables are getting loaded, and even the shared data between different programs or processes are also stored. So we have a management unit called as memory management unit in the kernel, and this memory management unit in the kernel, it is responsible for, first thing is, it will go for keeping the track of which part of memory area is currently used by which process. Process means programs. Which part of the memory area is currently being used by which programs. Then it will go for allocating as well as deallocating the memory space depending on the need. That is here memory allocation will be done dynamically. As and when a program needs a memory, that part of a memory will be given to program 1. If you have one more concurrently running program, which part of a memory it is needed, that will be given to it. So dynamic allocation is being taken place there. Next thing is file system management. See, in file system management, what is file? File is nothing but a collection of related information. See, the file could be a program. Fine. It could be text files, it could be image files, Word document, audio, video files, etc. Even source code or the executable one also. So each of these files, they differ in the kind of information they hold. That is what information they hold. There is a difference between all these files, and also in the way in which the information is stored. So the information content of a files will differ, and also how they are stored also will go for differing. So this file operation, it is useful, and it will go for doing the file system management for the kernel. What all it is going to do? In file system management, creation of the file, deletion and alteration of the file, it is taken care by the file system management. Next, even creating, deleting as well as altering the directories. You are going to store the files in the directories. So even creation, deletion and alteration of the directories is done by the file system management only. Then saving of the files in the secondary storage memory. Secondary storage memory means your hard disk storage, where it has to be stored in the hard disk. It is done by the file management only. Then providing a flexible naming convention with respect to the files. You can name, you can go for renaming, and see, with respect to the different kind of files, the way we store it will be different there. The way we are going to store it. C file means you will have a .c. C++ means .cpp. That way, like we'll have the extensions as different. So all this job will be done by the file system management. Next one is the IO system management, or you can call it as IO input output device management. Again, kernel, it is responsible for routing the IO request coming from different applications to the appropriate IO devices in the system. We have IO devices in the system, and to these IO devices in the system will be having requests from the different user applications. So which application wants to have a communication with which device is taken care by the IO, it is taken care by the IO system management. If you have a very good OS, direct accessing of the IO devices, it is not allowed, and access to them will be provided through the set of application programming interfaces. We call them as APIs. And only through the APIs the communication can be carried out. See, the kernel will go for maintaining list of all the IO devices in the system, and this list will be available at the time of building the kernel only. Some kernels, they dynamically go for updating the list of variables, list of available devices, and that is as and when you go for installing a new device, then it will the list gets updated there. For example, in your Windows NT kernel, it will go for keeping a list updated when you have a new plug and play USB device attached to the system. You have the device manager. Fine. The service device manager across any the service device manager for different operating systems will be different, and this is the service device manager is responsible for handling all the IO device related operations. And also kernel will go for having a communication with respect to the IO device through a set of low level system calls. We have a low level system calls. Through that the kernel will go for talking with the IO device, and these will be implemented in a service. These services we are calling them as device drivers. In the lab also I have experienced with respect to device driver, if not installed properly, you will not be able to download the program into the chip. Fine. Then apart from this, these device drivers, they are responsible with respect, see, whatever device drivers we have, they are specific to a device or a class of devices. And the device manager is responsible for loading as well as unloading of device drivers. And it is also responsible for exchanging information and the system specific control signals through to and from the device. Two things it has to do with respect to the device manager. First one is loading and unloading of the device drivers. Second one is exchanging information and the specific control signals to and from the device. Next one is the secondary storage management. See, secondary storage management is with respect to managing the secondary storage memory devices if they are connected to the system. See, again, this secondary memory, it is usually used as a backup medium for programs and data because the main memory is a volatile memory. In most of the systems, secondary storage is kept in the hard disk only. The secondary storage management services of the kernel, usually it will go for handling disk storage allocation, disk scheduling, and free disk space management. Three jobs here. First one is the disk storage allocation. Next one is disk scheduling. Disk scheduling means the time interval at which the disk is activated to back up the data. Then you have the free disk space management. All these three jobs will be done by the secondary storage management. Next comes the protection systems. In protection systems, with respect to your modern operating systems, they are designed in such a way to support multiple users with different levels of access permissions. In Windows 10, user permissions like administrator, standard, restricted, etc. you have. Apart from that, even the protection deals with security policies
in order to restrict the access to both user as well as the system resources by different applications or programs or the users. Fine. If you have a multi-user operating system, one user may not be allowed to view or modify the whole portions of another user's data or profile details. Fine. In addition, some applications may not be given a permission to make use of some of the system resources also. This kind of protection, it is provided by the protection service running within the kernel. All of you have experienced in the lab, like what access the administrator has there, the same access you students as a users will not go for having. Fine. Coming to the interrupt handler. Kernel will also go for providing handler mechanism, that is interrupt handler mechanism for all external as well as internal interrupts that are generated by the systems. Fine, you'll have the internal interrupts also and you'll have the external interrupts also. Everything is getting managed by the interrupt handler. See, these are the important services that are offered by the OS kernel. Coming to kernel space and user space. See, whatever the applications or the services we have, these are classified into two categories. First one is the user application and second one is the kernel application. What the program code with respect to the kernel applications, they'll be kept in the continuous area in the primary memory, that's your working memory, and it will be protected from the unauthorized access by the user programs or the applications. This memory, we are calling it as a kernel space. It's nothing but kernel space is nothing but it's a memory space at which the kernel code is stored, and access to this space is restricted. The user applications or the user programs cannot go for accessing this particular memory place. It's a primary memory only. You are storing it in the primary memory only. Then you need in the primary memory only you are storing even the user programs. So where you in the primary memory you are storing the user programs, that we are calling it as the user space. Or what you can say here is all the user applications will be loaded into a particular area of the primary memory, and this area is called the user space. Again, this user space, here user applications are loaded and they'll get executed. And partitioning of the main memory, that is the partitioning of the main memory into the kernel and the user space is the job of the operating system. And again, it is operating system dependent. In some operating systems, this kind of partitioning and protection is not there. But some of the operating systems, they go for having the separation, that is segregation between the kernel and user storage space. And in some operating systems, we have a virtual memory support. In the operating systems where we have the virtual memory support, this user applications or programs will be loaded in its corresponding virtual memory space with demand paging technique. Demand paging technique means, see, whatever the memory area we have here for the user application, that area is divided into the pages. See, your complete program, your user application, complete program need not be loaded at once. Which part of the program right now you are executing, or which code you need, that gets loaded into the main memory. Fine. Instead of loading the complete user application into the primary memory in one go, that is at once, what is happening here? The user application code, it will be split into different pages, and these pages will be loaded into the main memory depending on the need. On need basis, it gets loaded into the main memory. Application, user application is divided into different pages. As and when that page is needed, that gets loaded into the memory. It gets loaded, and again that will be removed from the memory. It is like loading, remove, loading, remove. This we are calling it as a swapping process. That is loading the code into and out of the main memory. We are calling it as a swapping process. And this swapping is happening between the primary memory and the secondary storage memory, where the program has to be stored. Rest of the program will be stored in the secondary storage memory. Which is needed to be executed, that gets loaded. That particular page gets loaded. Then again it will be moved out and the next page will be loaded. Here each program will go for running its own virtual memory space, and concurrently if I am running two programs, the memory space, virtual memory space with respect to program 1 will be different from virtual memory space with respect to program 2. And they cannot, program 1 cannot go for accessing the memory space with respect to the program 2. But on request, it can go for getting some accesses. Again, it depends upon the privilege levels. Depending upon privilege levels, accessing can be done. So, each program will have a certain privilege levels for accessing the memory of other program. And depending on the privilege setting, programs can request the kernel to map other programs' memory into its own, and they can go for sharing through some other, they can, what is happening here is they can share their own memory, or they can go for taking the memory or sharing, they can have the access with respect to the memory of other program. Fine. And this most of operating system will go for keeping the kernel application code in the main memory, and it is not swapped out into the secondary memory, because that is the operating system kernel application code you need for the boot up and all. So you need to have it in the main memory. This is not getting swapped out into the secondary memory.